Luna stepped out of the bustling Dunkin' Donuts on Fifth Avenue, her sleek white dress clinging to her frame, a chic black purse dangling from her shoulder. The New York evening buzzed around her, honking cabs, chattering pedestrians, after a long day at the office and a quick catch-up with friends. A faint smile played on her lips, her mind drifting to the comfort of home. But then, out of the shadows, two cops emerged like predators. Samuel, a towering brute with icy, unblinking eyes, and Lewis, younger, his stern face twitching with unease. "Evening, ma'am," Samuel growled, his voice a low rumble that sent a chill down her spine. "We've got word of a robbery nearby. Hand over your bag, now." Luna froze, heart pounding. "A robbery? I've been inside with friends. I've got nothing to do with this," she protested, clutching her purse tighter. Samuel's lips curled into a sneer, his gaze raking over her like she was prey. "Standard procedure. You don't get to say no." Before she could react, he lunged, snatching her bag with a brutal yank. Her hands shot out to grab it back, but he shoved her against the grimy brick wall, pinning her as he rifled through her belongings. Onlookers gasped, a crowd forming, yet no one moved. Lewis shifted, eyes darting, but stayed silent. The air thickened with tension. Luna's world was unraveling, and Samuel wasn't done yet. Luna's breath hitched as Samuel's meaty hand clamped around her wrist, twisting it until she yelped. Her purse hit the pavement with a dull thud, spilling her keys, phone, and lipstick across the cracked Fifth Avenue sidewalk. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of shock and cowardice, but no one dared step forward. Samuel loomed over her, his cold eyes glinting with menace. "You think you're special, huh? Let's see what else you're hiding," he snarled, his voice slicing through the humid New York air. Then, in a swift, vicious move, he grabbed the hem of her white dress and yanked it upward, exposing her legs to the gawking onlookers. Luna screamed, shoving at his iron grip, her nails digging into his arm. But he laughed, a guttural, mocking sound that made her blood run cold. "Stop it, you bastard!" she cried, her voice cracking with rage and humiliation. Lewis flinched, his boots scuffing the ground as if he might intervene. But one glare from Samuel froze him like a deer in headlights. The tension was suffocating, a powder keg ready to blow. Then, cutting through the chaos like a blade, came a voice, low, smooth, and unmistakable. "Yo, what the hell's going on here, fam?" Heads whipped around as Snoop Dogg strolled into the scene, his lanky frame draped in a black hoodie, shades perched low on his nose. The crowd parted, buzzing with whispers. "Is that Snoop?" As he sauntered up, hands in his pockets, exuding a calm that somehow made the air heavier. Samuel straightened, squinting at the rapper, like he was sizing up a nuisance. "Mind your business, pal," he barked, stepping towards Snoop with a swagger that screamed trouble. But Snoop didn't blink. "Nah, homie, this is my business when I see a lady getting messed with like that. Drop her dress now." His tone was ice cold, a warning wrapped in velvet, and for a split second, Samuel hesitated, his hand twitching. The standoff was electric. Samuel's hulking figure versus Snoop's laid-back defiance. Luna caught in the crossfire, her chest heaving as she yanked her dress back down. Passers-by whipped out their phones, filming the showdown, the flashes lighting up the night like gunfire. "You don't know who you're messing with," Samuel spat, stepping closer, his badge gleaming under the streetlights. Snoop tilted his head, a sly grin creeping across his face. "Funny, I was about to say the same to you, officer." The crowd held its breath. Would Samuel swing? Would Snoop back down? Luna seized the moment, wrenching free from Samuel's grip and stumbling toward Snoop, her eyes wild with desperation. "Please, help me," she gasped, clutching his sleeve. Samuel lunged to grab her again, but Snoop slid in front, blocking him with a casual step that oozed authority. "Back off, man, you're done here." Lewis finally spoke, his voice shaky. "Samuel, maybe we should—" But Samuel's roar cut him off. "Shut it, rookie." He shoved past Lewis, chest puffed, ready to escalate, when a siren wailed in the distance. Samuel froze, eyes darting, then sneered at Luna and Snoop. "This ain't over," he hissed, storming off with Lewis trailing behind like a scolded dog. Luna collapsed against the wall, trembling as Snoop turned to her, his gaze softening. "You good, sis? Ain't nobody gonna let this slide." The crowd erupted, some cheering, some jeering, but the question hung in the air. What would happen next? Yo, folks, this is just the start of Luna's fight. And Snoop's stepping up big time. If you're hooked, drop a 1 in the comments, and smash that subscribe button to catch the next part. Want to see Samuel get what's coming? Say 2 and tell us how you'd handle this punk. Not feeling it? Hit like anyway. We'll win you over next time. What's Luna gonna do? How's Snoop gonna flip this? Stay tuned. You won't believe the twist coming your way. Luna staggered down Fifth Avenue, her white dress wrinkled and stained, the sting of Samuel's grip still burning her wrist. The neon lights of New York flickered overhead, mocking her as she clutched her torn purse, its contents barely salvaged from the sidewalk. Her chest heaved with every ragged breath, anger, shame, and fear warring inside her. She could still hear Samuel's taunting laugh echoing in her ears, see Lewis's useless, guilt-ridden stare, and feel the weight of 100 eyes that watched but did nothing. But then there was Snoop Dogg, his voice, his presence, a lifeline in the chaos. She stumbled into her apartment building, the doorman casting a worried glance as she bolted for the elevator. The doors slid shut and she sank to the floor, fists clenched, vowing through gritted teeth, "I'm not letting that bastard win." Inside her sleek Manhattan loft, Luna stormed to the kitchen, slamming her purse onto the counter. Her husband, James Carter, looked up from his laptop, his broad shoulders tensing as he caught the fire in her eyes. "Luna, what the hell happened?" he demanded, his deep voice laced with alarm. She paced, words tumbling out like bullets. Samuel's assault, the crowd's apathy, Snoop stepping in. James's jaw tightened with every detail, his hands balling into fists. "He did what to you?" he roared, slamming his palm on the table so hard the coffee mugs rattled. "That son of a bitch is done. I'll break him myself." Luna grabbed his arm, her voice fierce. "No, James, we're doing this right. He's not just some thug, he's a cop. We need a plan." The air crackled with their shared fury as Luna yanked a notebook from a drawer, her pen slashing across the page. She scribbled every moment. The time, Samuel's badge number, Lewis's hesitation, Snoop's words. Her hand trembling but relentless. James paced behind her, his shadow looming large. "We've got a witness, Luna. Snoop Dogg, he's not some nobody. People will listen." She nodded, her mind racing. "He said he'd help. I've got his number from some guy at Dunkin'. But we need more. We need to bury Samuel." She grabbed her phone, dialing her best friend Helen, a no-nonsense lawyer with a Brooklyn edge. "Helen, it's me. I need you. Now!" Luna snapped, her voice a razor. Helen didn't hesitate. "Spill it, girl. Who's messing with you?" Minutes later, Helen burst through the door, her leather jacket slung over her shoulder, eyes blazing. Luna recounted the nightmare, her words sharp and raw, while James cracked his knuckles, barely containing his rage. Helen's face darkened with every sentence. "This ain't just assault, Luna. It's abuse of power. That pig's got a badge, but he's not untouchable. We're taking him down, hard." She pulled out her phone, already dialing contacts. "I know people at the precinct, some advocacy folks, too. We'll dig up dirt on this Samuel guy." Luna's eyes locked with James's, a silent pact forming. "He threatened me, said it's not over," she said, her voice low and deadly. "Well, he's right about one thing. It's not over. Not till he's in cuffs." Snoop's call came just as Helen hung up, his laid-back drawl cutting through the tension. "Yo, Luna, you holding up? I ain't letting this slide, fam. I've got eyes on the street. Samuel's a known punk. We're gonna smoke him out." Luna gripped the phone, her resolve steeling. "Thanks, Snoop. We're building a case. James and Helen are in. You with us?" His chuckle was dark, promising. "All in, sis. Let's fry this fool." The room pulsed with their collective determination. Samuel had picked the wrong woman, the wrong night, and now the wrong team. The fight was on, and it was about to get brutal. The city never slept, and neither did Samuel's reign of terror. Days after his clash with Luna on Fifth Avenue, the hulking cop prowled the streets of Harlem, his badge a twisted shield for his brutality. The night air hung heavy with tension as he spotted Isabel, a petite college student waiting at a dimly lit bus stop, her headphones blasting music, oblivious to the predator closing in. Samuel's boots thudded against the pavement, his shadow swallowing her small frame. "Hey, you!" he barked, his voice a gunshot in the quiet. Isabel jumped, yanking out an earbud, her eyes wide with confusion. "Me? I'm just waiting for the bus," she stammered, clutching her backpack. Samuel's lips curled into a sneer. "Got reports of a theft round here. Show me that bag. Now!" Her hands shook as she fumbled with the straps. But before she could comply, he snatched it, ripping it open with a savage tug. Books, a phone, and a lipstick clattered to the ground, and Isabel gasped, dropping to her knees to gather them. Samuel wasn't done. He grabbed her arm, yanking her up so hard she cried out, then shoved her against the rusted bus shelter, his meaty hand pawing at her jacket. "What's this, huh? Hiding something?" he growled, tearing the fabric as she screamed, "Stop! I didn't do anything!" Lewis trailed behind, his face a mask of torment, sweat beading on his forehead. He'd seen this play out before. Luna's humiliation still haunted him. But Samuel's glare kept him leashed. "Don't just stand there, rookie. Check her pockets," Samuel snapped, his voice a whip crack. Lewis hesitated, his hand hovering, but Isabel's terrified sobs broke something in him. "Samuel, this ain't right. She's just a kid," he muttered, barely audible. Samuel whirled on him, eyes blazing like a storm. "You questioning me, punk? I'll have your badge by morning." Lewis shrank back, fists clenched, his silence a cage he couldn't escape. Isabel's pleas echoed as Samuel tossed her bag aside, leaving her crumpled against the shelter, tears streaking her face. He dusted his hands, smirking. "Next time, don't look so suspicious, sweetheart." The next night, Samuel struck again, this time in the Bronx. Clara, a weary housewife, sat on a park bench, her grocery bags at her feet, still reeling from a long day. The streetlights flickered as Samuel loomed over her, his presence a dark cloud. "ID, let's see it," he demanded, his tone icy. Clara fumbled in her purse, her voice trembling. I don't have it on me, officer. I'm just heading home." Samuel's laugh was a low rumble, dripping with malice. "No ID? That's a problem." He snatched her bags, dumping apples and diapers onto the dirt, then grabbed her blouse, ripping it open with a brutal yank. Clara shrieked, arms flailing to cover herself, but he pinned her to the bench, his breath hot on her face. "You're hiding something. Admit it," he roared as she sobbed. "Please, I'm a mom, not a criminal." A few passers-by froze, whispering, but none dared intervene. Samuel's badge was a wall no one breached. Lewis watched, his stomach churning, Clara's cries slicing through him like knives. He stepped forward, voice shaking. "Samuel, stop! This is too far!" Samuel rounded on him, shoving him so hard Lewis stumbled into the grass. "Too far? I'm the law here, you gutless worm," he bellowed, his fist raised like a hammer. Lewis scrambled up, heart pounding, but backed off, fear choking his defiance. Samuel turned back to Clara, tossing her torn blouse at her feet. "Get lost, before I book you." She fled sobbing as Samuel strutted away, invincible. But in Lewis's eyes a spark flickered. Guilt was turning to rage, and the cracks in his silence were widening. Samuel's rampage wasn't slowing, it was accelerating, and the city was his hunting ground. The streets of New York buzzed with a restless energy. But in Luna's Manhattan loft, a war council was brewing. Snoop Dogg leaned against the counter, his shades low, flipping through his phone with a scowl. "This Samuel cat's a menace, fam. I've been hearing whispers. He's hit more folks than we thought." Luna paced, her eyes blazing, the memory of her dress yanked up on Fifth Avenue fueling her fury. James Carter slammed a fist into his palm, his voice a growl. "We're not just talking. He's going down, and I'll make damn sure of it." Helen, perched on a stool, smirked as she scrolled through her contacts. "I've got a lead. Girls he's roughed up in Harlem and the Bronx. We're building a goddamn army." The room crackled with their resolve. Samuel's reign was about to hit a brick wall. Snoop took the lead, hitting the pavement with a mission. He rolled up to Harlem in his black SUV, bass thumping, and found Isabel at a corner deli, her hands still shaky from Samuel's assault. "Yo, sis, I saw what that punk did to Luna. I know he got you too," he said, his voice low but firm. Isabel's eyes darted, fear etched deep, but Snoop leaned in, unrelenting. "You're not alone. We're taking him out. You in?" She swallowed hard, then nodded, her voice a whisper. "Yeah, he can't keep doing this." Snoop grinned, clapping her shoulder. "That's my girl. We're just getting started." Back in the Bronx, James tracked down Clara, finding her in a cramped apartment, her torn blouse still in a heap by the couch. He towered in the doorway, his presence intense but steady. "Clara, I'm Luna's husband. That bastard Samuel humiliated her too. I need you to fight with us." Clara clutched her coffee mug, tears brimming, but James didn't back off. "He thinks he's untouchable. We're going to prove him wrong." Her lip trembled, then hardened. "Okay, for my kids. I'll do it." James nodded, his jaw tight. "Good, he's finished." Meanwhile, Helen worked the phones, her Brooklyn grit cutting through excuses. She dialed Marina, a quiet student Samuel had groped near NYU. "Listen up, Marina. He's a predator. I've got victims lining up. You're next, or he keeps hunting." Marina's breath hitched over the line, but Helen pressed. "We've got Snoop Dogg and a pissed-off husband on this. You're safe with us." A beat of silence, then Marina's voice steadied. All right, I'll testify. Helen smirked, hanging up. That's 3. Let's bury him. The team regrouped at Luna's, the air thick with tension. Snoop tossed his phone down, a list of names glowing on the screen. We've got Isabel, Clara, Marina. More coming. This dude's toast. Luna gripped her notebook, her pen slashing new details. Dates, places, Samuel's every move. James loomed over her, his voice a rumble. He threatened you, Luna. Now we threaten him. Right back. Helen cracked her knuckles, eyes glinting. I've got a lawyer buddy, Pablo. He's filing this tomorrow. Samuel's badge won't save him. Snoop leaned back, his grin dark. We're a crew now, fam. He's about to feel the heat. The stakes skyrocketed. Samuel's victims weren't just names anymore. They were a reckoning, closing in fast. Lewis's hands shook as he gripped the steering wheel of the patrol car. Samuel's smug laughter filling the air like poison. The Bronx streets blurred past, but all Lewis could see was Clara's tear-streaked face, her blouse ripped open, and Isabel's trembling frame against the bus shelter. Samuel lounged in the passenger seat, cracking his knuckles. What's with you, rookie? You look like you're gonna puke, he sneered, his voice a blade. Lewis's throat tightened, guilt clawing at his chest. He'd stood by too long. Luna's screams on Fifth Avenue, Samuel's hands on innocent women. It was a nightmare he couldn't unsee. You went too far, Samuel, he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. Samuel's head snapped toward him, eyes narrowing to slits. What did you say, punk? He roared, lunging across the console, his fist slamming into Lewis's shoulder. The car swerved, tires screeching as Lewis fought to regain control, heart pounding like a war drum. Pull over, Samuel barked, and Lewis obeyed, the car screeching to a halt on a dark side street. Samuel yanked him out, slamming him against the hood, his badge glinting under the flickering streetlight. You think you can judge me? I'm the law here, he bellowed, spit flying, his grip crushing Lewis's collar. Lewis's knees buckled, but something snapped inside. Fear turned to fire. You're a damn monster, he spat, shoving Samuel back with a surge of adrenaline. Samuel stumbled, shock flashing across his face, then charged, fists swinging. Lewis ducked, the punch grazing his jaw, and stumbled backward, blood trickling from his lip. You're done, Lewis. Career over, Samuel roared. But Lewis stood tall, chest heaving. No, you're done. I'm ending this. That night, Lewis slipped into a dive bar in Brooklyn, hood up, eyes darting. He'd made up his mind. Silence wasn't an option anymore. He dialed Helen, his voice low and urgent. It's Lewis. I work with Samuel. I've seen everything. I wanted Helen's sharp laugh cut through the line. Took you long enough, kid. Meet me, now. An hour later, in a shadowy booth, Helen slid a coffee across the table, her eyes piercing. Spill it. All of it. Lewis's words poured out. Samuel's connections, his threats, the cover-ups. Each one a nail in the coffin. He's got dirt on the captain. Thinks he's untouchable, he said, fists clenched. Helen smirked, leaning in. Not anymore. You're our ace, Lewis. Luna's crew's ready, Snoop, James, the girls. We're filing tomorrow. Lewis nodded, sweat beading on his brow. He knew the risk, Samuel's wrath, the precinct's backlash. But Clara's sobs echoed in his skull, pushing him forward. I'll testify, he said, voice steady. He's gotta pay. Helen's grin was feral. Oh, he will. This is war, and we're bringing the heat. The bar's jukebox kicked on, a gritty blues riff underscoring the moment. Lewis had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. Samuel's empire was cracking, and the reckoning was barreling toward him like a freight train. Yo, things just got wild. Lewis is flipping the script. Think he's got the guts to take Samuel down? Drop a hell yeah in the comments if you're rooting for him. Or a nah, he's toast if you think Samuel's still got the upper hand. Smash that subscribe button. Next part's gonna blow your mind. Will Lewis's betrayal stick? Or will Samuel crush him first? You won't want to miss this. The Manhattan courtroom buzzed with a tension thick enough to choke on, the air heavy with the weight of justice hanging in the balance. Luna sat ramrod straight, her white dress swapped for a sharp blazer, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles whitened. James Carter loomed beside her, his jaw set like stone, while Snoop Dogg leaned back in the gallery, shades low, his calm masking a storm. Across the room, Samuel slouched in his chair, his uniform traded for a cheap suit, smirking like he owned the place. The judge, a grizzled vet with a no-nonsense glare, banged the gavel, silencing the murmurs. Order! We're here to address Officer Samuel Martinez. Abuse of power, assault, the works. Let's get this straight. The stakes were sky high and the clock was ticking. Helen strode forward, her heels clicking like gunshots, flanked by Pablo, a wiry lawyer with a razor-sharp edge. "Your Honor, this man's a predator with a badge," she declared, slamming a stack of files onto the table. Luna's notes, Lewis's intel, victim testimonies. Samuel's lawyer, a slick shark in a pinstripe suit, sneered. "All hearsay? My client was doing his job." But Helen didn't flinch, calling Isabel first. The college girl trembled as she took the stand, her voice cracking. "He ripped my bag, pinned me, said I'd regret fighting back." Samuel's smirk faltered, his eyes boring into her, but she held firm. Clara followed, her blouse long gone but her fury fresh. "He tore my shirt in the park, called me trash," she spat, tears streaming. The crowd shifted, whispers rising like a tide. Then came Lewis, the wild card. He shuffled to the stand, sweat beading, his uniform replaced by a plain jacket. Samuel's glare could have melted steel, but Lewis met the judge's eyes. "I saw it all. Luna, Isabel, Clara. He enjoyed it. He's got the captain in his pocket. Barry's complaints." The courtroom erupted, gasps and shouts bouncing off the walls as Samuel lunged forward, restrained by bailiffs. "You lying rat," he roared, veins bulging. Lewis didn't blink. "I'm done covering for you." Helen pounced, shoving documents at the judge. Dates, names, a trail of corruption. "This ain't one bad day. It's a damn pattern." Samuel's lawyer scrambled, his voice oily. "These are desperate lies. Where's the proof?" But Pablo fired back, cool as ice. "Proof's in the witnesses, the files. Your client's a thug, not a cop." The judge's gavel slammed again, silencing the chaos. Hours bled into a blur. Cross-examinations, shouted objections. Samuel's snarl growing wilder. Luna's heart pounded as she testified, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "He humiliated me on Fifth Avenue. Said I'd never win." Snoop leaned forward, fists clenched, as James gripped her shoulder, a silent vow. Finally, the judge leaned back, his face unreadable. "I've heard enough. The evidence is clear. Samuel Martinez abused his authority, violated rights. Guilty. 5 years in prison, badge revoked. Permanently." The gavel crashed like thunder and Luna exhaled, tears spilling as James pulled her close. Samuel thrashed as cuffs snapped on, his bellows drowned by cheers from Isabel, Clara, and Marina, who rushed to Luna's side. Snoop stood, nodding slow and sharp. "Justice, fam. Served cold." The room spun with victory, but Samuel's final glare promised vengeance. A beast caged, not broken. The fight was won, but the war wasn't over. The Manhattanites swallowed the courthouse as Luna stepped out. The weight of victory clashing with the chill of Samuel's final venomous glare burned into her mind. James Carter's arm wrapped around her, a fortress of strength, but her legs still trembled. 5 years behind bars wasn't enough to erase the scars. Snoop Dogg sauntered up, his shades catching the streetlights, a slow nod breaking the silence. "We got him, sis. Locked up tight," he said, his voice a low rumble. But his eyes flickered with something darker, a warning unspoken. Isabel, Clara, and Marina huddled close, their faces a mix of relief and raw defiance, tears streaking through their smiles. "He's gone, really gone," Clara whispered, clutching Luna's hand, her voice shaking with the ghosts of the Bronx Park. The air buzzed with their shared triumph, but beneath it lurked a storm. Samuel's snarl as the cuffs snapped on echoed like a promise of revenge. Back in their loft, Luna collapsed onto the couch, her blazer crumpling. The courtroom's chaos replaying in flashes. Lewis's trembling stand, Helen's fierce strike, the judge's gavel crashing like a guillotine. James knelt before her, his hands gripping hers, eyes blazing. "You did it, Luna. He's finished. We all did." But her gaze drifted, haunted. "He looked at me like he'd claw his way back," she murmured, her voice a jagged edge. Helen stormed in, tossing her jacket aside, her Brooklyn fire unquenched. "Let him try. 5 years in Rikers will break that bastard. We've got eyes on him now." Snoop leaned against the wall, lighting a blunt, the smoke curling like a noose. "Streets talk, fam. He's got enemies inside and ain't no king in a cage." Yet the tension hung heavy. Justice felt fragile, a thin shield against a beast still breathing. Lewis slipped in last, his face gaunt, the weight of betrayal etched deep. "I'm sorry I waited so long," he said, voice cracking, eyes locked on Luna. She stood, stepping close, her hand on his shoulder. "You stood up. That's what counts. We couldn't have won without you." His nod was tight, guilt still gnawing, but a spark of redemption flared. Outside, New York roared on, indifferent. But in that room, a truth crystallized. Silence had been their enemy, and they'd shattered it. Isabel's quiet strength, Clara's maternal rage, Marina's timid courage, they'd fused into a force that toppled Samuel's throne. Luna walked to the window, staring at the city's jagged skyline, her breath fogging the glass. James joined her, his voice a low vow. He's locked up, but we stay ready. This ain't the end. She nodded, fists clenching. It's bigger than him. It's everyone he heard. Everyone too scared to fight. Snoop exhaled, smoke swirling. That's the real win, homie. Giving him a voice. The room pulsed with their pact. Justice wasn't a gavel's fall. It was a fire they'd lit. A warning to every badge that dared cross the line. Samuel was down, but his shadow loomed, a reminder that the battle for right never slept. They'd won the day, but the night was still alive with threats.